Less than 24 hours later, we're on our third lawsuit against Donald Trump and his depraved policies, this time against the executive order trying to rip away birthright citizenship to newborns and babies and children that are already born here on American soil, trying to take away the 14th Amendment, Section 1, something that we hold dear, that we have enshrined in the Constitution and in federal statutes and in Supreme Court precedent. You can't take away birthright citizenship. You can't just call them anchor babies and take it away and put newborns in harm's way. The ACLU, the NAACP, some new groups I'll talk about, led by Norm Eisen to defend democracy, and the Indonesian community in New Hampshire, of all places, have all bound together and filed in a federal court in New Hampshire this case. I told you it was coming. I told you birthright citizenship was not going to be denied to people because Donald Trump stroked his pen over an executive order, not a constitutional amendment, not a constitutional right, and not on our watch. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Let's get into it. This is going to be the hottest of corners, the intersection of law and politics. You want to be here, and here we go. I got my hands on it, and of course on the ACLU decision. Donald Trump signed an executive order to instruct all of his government agencies to not recognize any children, any babies born whose mothers are not citizens or are here temporarily, legally or illegally, period, unless their fathers are citizens. And so that was the executive order. Now that struck down, that attempted to strike down, but not really. It's just a pander to his MAGA community, because you can't get rid of a constitutional amendment by an executive order. Doesn't work. You have to amend the Constitution or get the United States Supreme Court to rule in your favor, neither of which I think is likely. The executive order, which is being challenged now by this new lawsuit, purports under paragraph 45 of the complaint. The order purports to declare that a child born in the United States is not a citizen if at the time of the birth, their mother is either unlawfully present in the United States, undocumented, or their mother's presence in the United States was lawful but temporary. That's sort of the Indonesian community in New Hampshire who came here in 2023 for a better life, awaiting asylum, don't have asylum yet, but are here temporarily, and their father was not a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. And so the lawsuit, and let me read to you from the American Civil Liberties Union press release. I said this right after the election. Look for the American Civil Liberties Union to lead the way against Donald Trump and the attack on civil liberties. They've been ready for the birthright citizenship case for the last 3 years. Okay, they had the complaint drafted. They probably have already identified the plaintiffs. The plaintiffs are the New Hampshire Indonesian Community Support, which supports the Indonesian community which emigrated looking for political asylum in 2023 in New Hampshire. The League of United Latin American Citizens, known as LULAC, and Make the Road New York, all supported by the NAACP, the ACLU, and other organizations led by Norm Eisen, friend of the podcast, friend of the channel, who formed a new group called State Democracy Defenders Fund to bring just these kind of lawsuits. Now, here's what the press release has to say by the American Civil Liberties Union, just so we get that right. Here we go. They started with new order puts newborns in harm's way, is unconstitutional, and flouts fundamental American values. They talk about the case. They say, this is the quote from the executive director of the ACLU, denying citizenship to U.S.-born children is not only reckless, or is not only unconstitutional, it's also reckless, ruthless, a repudiation of American values. Birthright citizenship is part of what makes the United States the strong and dynamic nation that it is. This order seeks to repeat one of the gravest errors in American history. That's the Dred Scott decision, finding that Black Americans were not citizens, the newly freed slaves, by creating a permanent subclass of people born in the U.S., but are denied full rights as Americans. We will not let this attack on newborns and future generations of Americans go unchallenged. Trump's overreach is so egregious that we are confident that we will ultimately prevail. I am too. Starts with the federal court in New Hampshire, Well, I'll come back and tell you what judge has been assigned to this soon and tell you how that matters. It will then go up to, New Hampshire sits in the First Circuit, the First Circuit Court of Appeals. From the First Circuit, it will go to the United States Supreme Court, and I think it'll go very, very quickly. What they're seeking in the lawsuit is to have it declared that there's a violation of the 14th Amendment and of the federal statute that also enshrines in it the birthright citizenship of people to be declared U.S. citizens regardless of their parents, including an 1898 Supreme Court case, Wong Kim Ark, in which a Chinese baby grew up here in the United States on U.S. soil in San Francisco. 20 years after, tried to go to China. On the way back, he got stopped at the border. The United States Supreme Court had to declare him a United States citizen, regardless of the fact that his parents were still subject to the laws and the jurisdiction of China and the Emperor of China at the time. Doesn't matter, because we see this as jus soil. We see this as the law is you're born on this soil, you're an American citizen. Canada same, Mexico same, all of North America sees it that way. What they're seeking in the lawsuit, in a section we call prayer for relief, is to have the executive order declared to be unconstitutional and unlawful in its entirety, preliminarily and permanently enjoin the defendants, which is Donald Trump, Homeland Security, and everybody around him, from enforcing this executive order, require the defendants to pay reasonable attorney's fees. Now, the groups that have bound together, as I told you, watch these groups. They are going to lead the way, the shining light against Donald Trump and his worst instincts. The American Civil Liberties Union Immigrants' Rights Project out of San Francisco, the American Civil Liberties Union of New Hampshire, of Maine, of Massachusetts, the American Civil Liberties Union's Foundation Rights Project out of New York, the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, the State Democracy Defenders Fund led by Norm Eisen, the Asian Law Caucus, the American Civil Liberties Union of, as I said, Maine and Massachusetts, all bound together, 12 different plaintiffs here. The Indonesian community is the perfect one to carry the banner of this lawsuit because they are being harmed at the moment. They have standing, as we say in the law, to bring this suit on behalf of all others similarly situated. They came to this country for a better life in 2023. They're waiting for asylum. They're being slaughtered in their home country. And they're having babies. Yes, we don't sterilize people upon their arrival in the United States. And so as a result, those babies are Americans. I know the MAGA likes to call them anchor babies to undermine them, make them subhuman, a subclass. But they are American citizens. And we could have right now, being born in New Hampshire to Indonesian parents, the next United States president. I know that drives MAGA crazy with rage. But that's the bedrock of our Constitution. Everybody should take a tour of Ellis Island, where my grandparents came through. Now that was a naturalization center. So everybody that came through Ellis Island was on their way to being green card and naturalized. We need another Ellis Island project in this country. We need more processing centers, not detention centers. Turn all the detention centers into processing centers, right? And go back to an Ellis Island project. That's what I call for. But in the meantime, we're going to have to do this suit by suit, brick by brick. This is the third lawsuit filed against the Trump administration in less than 24 hours. I'm not even at noon yet on the second day. Two lawsuits already filed, which I covered, about DOGE, the phony Department of Government Efficiency, being a phony, improperly delegated entity. That's an improper federal advisory committee. And now this lawsuit, there may even be another one being filed on birthright citizenship. I said just 2 days ago here on Legal AF, there's two major lawsuits coming down the pike. You're going to hear about them the next 24 to 48 hours. And here they are, birthright citizenship and against DOGE. There's more to come. I'm glad you're here. I think this lawsuit's a winner. Why? Because the United States Supreme Court in 1898 ruled in a case involving this Chinese baby that if you're born here, that's what the 14th Amendment means. Now, what MAGA wants you to believe is that there's some language about if the person is subject to the jurisdiction of a foreign country. That's foreign diplomat babies. That's how that's been interpreted. Not, well, you're Mexican here illegally, so you're really still a Mexican citizen because we don't recognize you. That's not how that works. That's not how the 14th Amendment works. That's not how the interpretation of the 14th Amendment works. And that's not how the Supreme Court case works. Now, look, I get it. Where have I heard about a United States Supreme Court not properly interpreting the 14th Amendment? Oh, right, this one. 14th Amendment, Section 3 about insurrection status not being qualified to take office. Yeah, in the Colorado ballot case. Yeah, I get it. They could bend over backwards to try to help Donald Trump, but that was trying to help Donald Trump get to be the president. That's not denying babies born in America and children born in America their fundamental right to be Americans. That's a horse of a different color. As bad as John Roberts is as the Chief Justice, circling the drain of history, I don't think he wants as his legacy that he denied millions of people birthright citizenship and changed the meaning of our framers of our Constitution and the framers of that particular amendment coming out of the Civil War. Even I defy John Roberts to even find 5 votes to do that. 4 votes, sure. Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas, they've never seen a upturning of a major constitutional bedrock they haven't wanted to join in on. That's them. Kavanaugh, he's sort of a free radical, moving around, sometimes joins the 3, sometimes sits in the middle, mainly joins the 3. But Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett, I think Amy Coney Barrett has 8 children. I'm not making it up, including adopted. And so she's going to take a position that other people's babies that are born here under the 14th Amendment are not citizens. I doubt it. I've said this is the rise of the Amy Coney Barrett court because she's going to be the swing vote. Not because I like her, not because I agree with all of her positions. I don't about 90% of the time. But I do have eyes. And she is becoming the swing vote. Just as it was the Kennedy court when Anthony Kennedy was on because he voted with the majority more than any other. Sandra Day O'Connor court before that. And yes, she's to the right of them. She's right, center. But she is the vote we have to shoot for because she and Roberts move over with the Democratic wing of the Supreme Court, and this gets put to bed really quickly. I think this whole case goes quickly. I think it starts now in New Hampshire. I think we're going to see injunctive relief and briefing over the next 2 or 3 weeks or a month. I think it's going to be up at the First Circuit sometime before the first quarter of 2025 is over. I think it's going to be an emergency petition up to the United States Supreme Court by no later than the second quarter of 2025. That's how quickly this is going to move, and other cases against him. Now, if you think this is going fast, okay, now I hope you believe me when I told you in November that these lawsuits are already drafted, that there were almost 1,000 lawsuits filed during the first Trump administration. You can triple that now because Donald Trump's been empowered and emboldened, drunk with power, drunk with rage and retribution and MAGA and Project 2025. And so triple the number. He's going to overreach, and that's how we pay him back. We bring these lawsuits. We get federal judges to agree with us. Circuit courts like the First Circuit, which is kind of a more of a liberal, moderate circuit, that we like, right? I said it before, aim for the circuits that are favorable to democratic values. The First Circuit, the Second Circuit, which covers New York, the Third Circuit, which covers New Jersey, the Ninth Circuit, which covers California, the DC Circuit, which covers the DC court. That's where we got to aim for. Stay away from Texas. Stay away from the Fifth Circuit. Stay away from even the Seventh Circuit in the Midwest. Stay away from the 11th Circuit in Florida, Alabama, and Georgia. Aim for the places that we find favorable. So we'll continue to follow it right here on Legal AF. Do me a favor. Take a moment. Hit the subscribe button. Now's the time, more than ever. Break glass emergency is here. You'll want to be here for the follow-up and the follow-through on all of these law and politics cases. I curate this channel. We got some great contributors. I'm glad you're here. Hit the subscribe button. Take a receipt with you. You're now a part of the Legal AF community. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.